Hello everyone, I'm Boz Fisher from Comza Group. Welcome, and I want to introduce you to Andrew Bycroft. You'll have to tell me the name of the company again.
It's the International Cyber Resilience Institute, or ICRI for short.
Excellent. Look, the reason I'm here, and actually I've known Andrew for quite a few years. I think it was dating back to the 48 years, was it 10 years ago?
Yeah, about 10 years ago, yeah.
But since then, he's actually written a really interesting book called The Cyber Intelligent Executive. I'll just show it to you in a second, so great. And this is one of the reasons, actually, I had a whole bunch of questions that I wanted to ask Andrew, but this book is easy to read, simple, but also exceptionally meaningful. So my first question that I wanted to ask you was, from a cyber attack, why isn't it an IT problem?
That's a good question, Boaz. And the problem is that these days, humans are the ones that are being attacked. It's not actually the technology per se. And what that means is we actually need to think about who best protects the people of the organisation, and it's certainly not IT. In fact, most IT people they got into the IT industry because they like technology more than people.
Yeah, exactly. So moving on from the board, because a lot of discussion is about whether the board and executives get cyber threat. Why should they be involved? What is the key here for them?
So what I've found is that at the heart of the cybercrime problem, it's actually a cultural issue. It's not having the right culture in place that fosters the right communications, processes, people, and technology. And as soon as you start talking about culture, you actually need to go right up to the board of directors who actually define what the culture needs to be, and it's executives that actually implement that culture.
Okay, so what are sort of the challenges that they are facing, the executives, in terms of trying to understand this landscape of threat?
Well, they really don't understand it well. They've actually got awareness of it. They are very time poor. So what we need to do is we need to help them understand what the threat landscape is, but better still to actually experience it, because they typically don't take action until they've experienced something.
Okay, excellent. Now, in the book you mentioned about cyber resilience, because it's a key message in your book. Can you just sort of give an overview of what exactly you mean by cyber resilience?
Yeah, so today what happens is most organisations, they focus on this concept of cyber security. And the problem with security is it's an all or nothing approach, it's binary. Now, think of some examples. You can't have someone who's 3/4 pregnant, you can't have someone who's lost 50% of their virginity, for example. It's all or nothing. And what that means is, let's say, for example, let's look at a bank vault. As we don't call it secure the moment it's been broken into.
Yes.
What we need to do is we need to give these people something to achieve, something that can be achieved. And what I believe that is cyber resiliency. And cyber resiliency, it can be many things. It can actually be, for example, remediating vulnerabilities. It can actually be predicting and preventing threats. Or it can actually be quickly recovering and bouncing back from a breach.
Yeah, but cyber resiliency doesn't mean throwing more security tools or technologies to try and solve the problem, does it?
No, it doesn't. So what it means is actually getting the right culture bedded down, and then having the right communications at the right levels of the organisation, developing processes by which people will then carry out those, and then finally technology is a little bit you do at the end to enable the people.
Yeah. In your resiliency foundation that you describe in your book, there's an element called compliance. Now, speaking from my background, I usually think that compliance and security are two different things. A lot of organizations tend to think, well, I've ticked, therefore I'm compliant, therefore I'm secure. Why isn't that the case?
Well, the problem is most organisations tend to look at compliance. It seems to be an easy objective to meet. The problem is it's only 50% of the way there. And the problem is if you're aiming for 50% and you lose out by 1%, let's say you only get 49%, what that means is effectively you've failed. If you actually aim for resiliency, you're aiming for 100%, but if you get anywhere between 90 to 95%, you effectively are resilient.
Yeah. In the industry, there's always talk about having a silver bullet, but there's no such thing as 100% protection, correct?
That's right. Yeah.
So being able to bounce back, being able to be resilient is extremely important.
It's incredibly important. It is the solution to cybercrime, really.
Yeah. So for that sort of discussion, why do we see that CIOs and CISOs maybe approaching the problem of cyber threats in the wrong way?
I think it's because compliance seems to be low-hanging fruit. It's something that's it's been talked about a lot. It seems achievable. Also, the problem is, in order to achieve resilience, you actually do need to go outside of the technology realm. You actually do need to have the right people in place. You've got to make sure that you've got the right processes, communications, and obviously the culture. And the problem is IT isn't equipped to deal with those other elements.
Yeah. So, and you mentioned something very important, is about the business culture. How do organizations today approach that sort of culture?
Well, they sort of struggle. What they need to be looking for is a culture that's got openness, adaptability, simplicity and caring. And unfortunately, most cultures tend to be the opposite of that.
Yeah.
And having HR dictate the culture, having IT dictate the culture, it's not going to work. It needs to be a board level discussion with executives obviously doing the implementation work.
Look, I would totally agree with that from an insider's perspective. I think it's a global, or let's say a whole of organization requirement rather than a specific targeted to a specific domain. Totally agree. So from your perspective, when you look at people, as we know, a lot of the budgets today go around protecting the perimeter with firewalls and gateways and so forth. But very little investment is taken down to what's happening internally, because you can have a cyber threat as well internally. How does the model that you have in the book also apply in that perspective?
Well, what it does is it basically gets you to effectively trust no one. What we do today typically is we recruit people and we trust them implicitly, we give them access, and over time, if there is insider threat, we probably don't even know that it's occurred, yet there could have been lots of telltale signs there that had we been monitoring and measuring those, we would have been completely aware that insider threat was occurring.
Yes, look, it's a big issue, and I'm glad that we've had the opportunity to talk. Can you just give me sort of an overview, or give us an overview of some of the services that you provide and the result that organizations get?
Yeah, so predominantly I work with large publicly listed and also some large private organisations as well. And what I do for them is I help the company directors and executives understand the role they need to play in combating cybercrime. And what they get out of it is peace of mind that their personal reputation is intact even when they've suffered the worst cybercrime imaginable.
That's key. So, that's very, very key. So how do people reach you? What's the best way?
Okay, best way would be to reach me through my website, cyberresilience.institute, and you can actually contact me and ask for a copy of my book.
Yeah, let me just show it to you. Where can they get the book?
They can also get it on Amazon as well, but come and contact me and I'm happy to send you one. Excellent.
Well, Andrew, much appreciated. It's been a pleasure, and I'm always learning. So
it's
great.
Thank you.
Thanks again. And until the next episode. Cheers, guys.